In the same way, non-Christians throughout the ages have been in the darkness of their sin, glimpsing the truth only in part. There are many of these shadows that point to the truth of God. In fact, we have learned about a large sampling of them at Rockbridge. In geometry class, we learned that the order of a proof points to the logic and truth of God. In biology, we learned that all the complexity and creativity in the world points to a creator. In literature, we learned that the failed search for justice in the Orsai points to the true justice found in God alone. We are literally surrounded by all of creation screaming God's truth. Having the Imago Dei, man is implanted with the conscience and natural desires for the things of God. Yet because of his sin, man's vision is impaired and he only perceives a part of the picture. He sees a shadow of the truth. However, not knowing the whole story, man seeks to satisfy himself with man-made solutions. Thus, there is the search for perfection in art, communication through intoxicated priestesses, and acceptance through phony, willing sacrifices. Man has but a shadow. The pervasiveness of the desire for God is truly fascinating. No matter where one travels or what time period he studies, he will always find a people who know part of the story. Now, this point is very interesting, but what do we do with it? How will it change the way I think and act? First of all, it should cause me to stand in awe of my Heavenly Father and praise Him for His pervasive truth. But Christ did not simply call me to stand. Christ called me to go, to make disciples of all nations, teaching them all that He commanded. So that is what I must do. We have been blessed with the whole story of the gospel. This story must not, indeed cannot, be contained. We must go to all people who know only part of the story and proclaim to them the wonderful ending. We must go to those who still live in the shadows and must shed the light of Christ's truth. Thank you.
Questions, and so this is an opportunity to ask some things that have been puzzling you about the grand tour, as well as to ask them specific questions about their speeches. Who has a question they'd like to ask? We're going to be here a long time. Yes, Mary.
What degree, I noticed a lot of what you said when I was there as well, how it has such a strong trace, such a strong desire to honor their God, and in every minute detail of what he did, and how that affected we as Christians, or we as Christians do today, and how much more we should do in everything we do for the glory of God. Do you think we could take less than we could do that?
I believe so. Yeah, I think what you're referring to is just how devoted these Greeks were to their gods, how much they did for them, the temples that they built, the years of preparation that it took to build those temples, the resources, all that, just devoted to the gods. And we look at our lives as modern-day Christians, and we maybe devote 15 minutes of our morning to Him, reading His Bible, or something like that. We just don't devote a lot of what we have, or our time, or what we do to God. So yes, I definitely think that we can learn a lesson. If they can worship just a shadow of what is real, then we should be able to do that much more to the real God.
how long was your journal? How did you put it together?
Well, it was handwritten, so I didn't count the pages because they weren't numbered. So I would say I probably wrote like 4 to 5 pages each day. Maybe that's not a standard page though, because it was about that big. I mean, does that answer your question?
How much time did you put in on it each day on the Grand Tour?
It differed from day to day because some days would be filled with tour after tour, and we saw so many different things in one day that I could write forever about. And then some days were free days. So it depended on what I learned that day. And I'd say maybe on average an hour or so a day, maybe a little less. Does that answer your question? Okay.
No, that's good, and to understand how to assemble it as you're going along. Did you guys skip a day and keep up with your journal?
Not without minor notes. You know, you write some notes, you don't necessarily have to flesh out things, but I think the key is that if you're writing about the thoughts that you had, not about, you know, this temple was this many feet tall and built this many years, you'll remember more easily the thoughts that you had than the little facts.
Other questions? Mr. Keener?
To follow on then, in addition to the hour or so a day that you spent on tour, how much time after you got back did it take to finish your journal?
I'd like all three of you to answer that.
I will go first. I did my journal in 2 days straight, not working constantly, obviously, but I did it over 2 nights, and I just worked for probably 6 hours each night, maybe. 12.
It took me about 30 minutes. No, I spent pretty much 4 days pretty constantly working on it, so it was a pretty big project, but it is doable, so it took me 4 full days.
I should have used tyranny and size method apparently, because it took me about 3 weeks to finish mine, but I didn't work as long as they did every day. I think I probably spent, on average, about 3 hours a day doing it, but I took break days, so don't get scared.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. Banks?
We have pictorial journals.
Do you have pictorial journals? In other words, how did you integrate the pictures you took and the things you collected? Where is that?
Yes, I put pictures and like tickets that I had, or little maps of things. I actually taped in a napkin from one of my favorite restaurants, just right next to the writing. So I just put it in the page and then write around it, maybe some little signs.
If you do something different.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I did include some photos that I took, and on some of them, I think this is actually Josh Bradley's idea, but if you take like a picture of the scenery, because there's a lot of beautiful sights out there, and I put, at least on one of them, just a verse that sort of captured that, or if I saw a ruin, and there's supposed to be a verse that with that, I did that, and then you can talk about that in the journal as well. So that, even if you take flowers or reeds or something, I know that sounds really so you can put that in the journal, press them, and it adds a little bit of
I did mine on the computer because I need spell check. So I scanned in tickets like into my computer and then used the file and put it into a Word document and everything.
Okay. All right, so 3 different styles, all worked well. Other questions? Yes.
In this speech, we talked a lot about the first century, the role model for the early Christians were the saints. For us Christians today, in the 21st century, our role model would be the saints or their people in our society, or people who see us
Yeah, I think just like the Christians in the catacombs had, like I said, the saints who were buried, who were their encouragement, and also the saints who think that as Christians today, we can definitely look at the stories of the saints and find encouragement from them as well. But just like you have role models, or like in your soccer playing, you watch soccer players who are still alive. You know, there are still things like there are still people that are here who can be role models and encouragement to us. There are people who are 70 and have lived through what you're going through now who can be an encouragement. In the same way that a story of a saint from 100, 200, 300, however many years ago can be an encouragement.
Dear Isai and Michaela, thank you very much.